Manifesto to Kenyans, and that is what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Raila's promise to Kenyans as he unveils Manifesto. 6,000 shillings a month to needy families to be rolled out in first 100 days. Raila also promised to jumpstart economy, free education, that is free varsity education, amongst others. Now there's an illustration. All right. Again, on the front page of the Star newspaper, Raila's promise to Kenyans as he unveils Manifesto. He promised 6,000 shillings a month to needy families to be rolled out in first 100 days. The former Prime Minister also promises to jumpstart economy and free varsity education. There is an illustration here of Azimio's pledge, that is double-digit economic growth, zero tolerance for corruption, reduce cost of living, free education for all, universal health care. We also have food security, free and independent media, increase counties' cash, water for all, and finally certificate for qualified artisans. I know different newspapers have different versions of what Honorable Raila Odinga had yesterday in the Azimio's manifesto there. At least 21 died in police custody in 6 months, according to IPO. 21 people reportedly died, one in police custody in the first 6 months of 2021. You can take a look at that story. That's from January to June of 2021. According to performance reports submitted to the National Assembly, said that IPOA received 12 complaints on enforced disappearance. Bodyguards' demand rises as IBC clears candidates. So there's a concern that police are reporting a sharp increase in the demand for bodyguards by candidates for the August 9th general election. Police authorities say that they are grappling with the demand amid strain on personnel. All right. Suicide murders surge in Murang'a, that is according to the county commissioner Karuku Ngumo, who said that in 6 months 35 people committed suicide while 32 others were murdered. Murder and suicides are increasing just about everywhere, but the numbers in Murang'a are particularly high. That is according to the county commissioner, and drug abuse and alcoholism are the major contributors according to the official. Moving on very fast, Raila promises to Kenyans as he launches Manifesto. There is a full page of that story. You can take a look at that. It's there, fleshed out there for you in details. Ruto unveils Women's League to counter the Karua wave. The DP is pushing to neutralize the Azimio Azimio's team's Raila Martha effect. Of course, the DP is in northeastern Kenya for a 5-day tour, where he said that he's still continuing with these economic model meetings there. And finally, senators in 6 sittings marathon to clear 24 bills before term end. The lawmakers have lined up the bills in marathon sittings starting Tuesday until next Thursday. This is to clear the pieces of legislation before the break, since that is indefinite because of an election that is coming up. So they have got a full plate that is awaiting them starting today, actually, until next Thursday. So it's their job nonetheless. But the question is, are they going to marshal the numbers? All right, Jen.
That has always been the question. You know, every time they have a session, we always bring that live broadcasting, and numbers have always been a big challenge when it comes to the city. But away from that, let me run you through the front page of the Daily Nation. We start off with the main read. They call it Raila's Canaan. Tunaenda Kanani. Y'all remember that song? So here they call it Raila's canon, according to this particular caption here rather. My dream, Azimio's presidential candidate Raila Odinga last evening did launch his manifesto, promising a developmental state that puts manufacturing at the heart of the growing economy while emphasizing on social capital, integrity, strengthening of devolved functions, and protection of media freedoms, among many other issues. He did touch on education, social protection, once again, the cost of living, devolution, public debt, corruption, and the youth as well. These stories again have been covered across 5 different pages, just highlighting the different areas that he did touch on. I will be giving you the details very briefly as we skim through the papers. Again, right here on the header, Road to State House, cleared to run. 4 candidates have been cleared as the nomination process came to a close yesterday. And looking at this story, it's interesting to see the numbers, how they have been over the years that we have had elections. And according to this article, this year, only 4 candidates is the shortest number that we have witnessed as a country since we gained the multi-party way of doing things back in 1992. They go on to give the figures. Looking at 2017, we had about 8 candidates. In 2013, there were also 8 candidates on the ballot paper. In 2007, there were 9 candidates. In 2002, there were 5 candidates. In 1997, we had 15 candidates, and in 1992, there were 8 candidates on the presidential list. So that is interesting to see. I mean, it's the first time we're having only 4 candidates to be cleared to vie for the top job. Finally, Sonko wins a reprieve over Mombasa race as a special 3-judge bench withdrew orders that restrained IEBC from barring former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko from contesting for the Mombasa gubernatorial seat under a Wiper ticket. But this does not mean that they are also compelled to allow the former governor to run for this seat. More details coming up in not too long. Doreen.
Isn't it interesting to see that in our history of elections, this is the year where we have the small number of presidential candidates, whereby we had the longest list of presidential aspirants. I mean, from 55 all the way to 4. Wow. IBC really did a thorough work in terms of disqualifying, the aspirants. But let's come to what the PD is holding for you this Tuesday morning, and your guess is just as good as mine. Clearly, part of what, or largely what is dominating this paper this morning is the Azimio Manifesto, whereby the presidential candidate unveiled that yesterday with the main header, Azimio pledges basket of goodies in its manifesto. The key focusing on matters to do with economy, obviously, question of social transformation, whereby intertwined in it is the social protection. Remember that the 6,000 that Raila Odinga kept talking about, also that has been captured, or that was captured in his manifesto yesterday. Question on the rule of emphasis on the rule of law. Rather, he also largely talked about the issue and the question of debt, and largely also when it comes to the social protection. Better still, also when it comes to matters economy, he said that he will facilitate the Fukuza Njaa program. And again, when we get those details, I'll just be giving you perhaps a detailed report on what this article has covered in respect to that, and how perhaps if he clinches power, how he is planning to do that. Again, remember that the issue of hunger and drought has been a key issue and a matter of concern in our country. And again, you can remember that also in the first 3 months, this has been what the state has at least been trying to do in terms of helping Kenyans, and this has been also largely when it comes to what they employed as it pertains to the cash transfer method. Again, also big promise on economic revolution has been featured in there. And slightly away from that, also we have that story on the relief on the former Nairobi governor, that is Mike Sonko. This is also with his Kiambu senator aspirant counterpart, that is Karungo Wakathangwa, whom were at least, given a reprieve by the three-judge bench, and sort of they can at least vie for the various positions in which they had wanted to vie. What the three-judge bench ruled is that the issue of eligibility is the core subject of determination in the consolidated petitions, and the parties ought to have been given an opportunity to be heard before a decision or before orders were issued in respect to that. So at least a reprieve and a lifeline for Governor Sonko and the Kiambu senator, Kiambu aspirant senator, that is Karungo Wathangwa. And teacher wins Global Tobacco Award. This is even as that day was commemorated on the 31st of May. That was last week on Tuesday. This is a day that is actually celebrated annually across the globe, just to see and to mark the progress that the globe has at least achieved when it comes to World No Tobacco Day. And this is a Kenyan teacher who won this award in those celebrations. The awards actually are in the form of WHO Director General Special Recognition Award and World No Tobacco Day Award. So that is Joel who won that particular award. And lastly, cancer kills 28,000 per year. This is what the PS Mochache mentioned yesterday in Nakuru, and this is even as she talked of how infectious diseases as well as cardiovascular diseases also top the list on when it comes to the number of Kenyans that this kind of diseases get to eliminate. And he also outlined the various ways in which the ministry is just putting in place to at least ensure they deal with the issue that is cancer. Troy.
And this is how the Standard looks, and it's quite resonating with what other papers have actually made or have prioritized today. Raila, what I plan to do with 100 days in power, and without diluting what my colleagues have talked about in a nutshell. He talked about how to improve the economy through a stimulus and recovery program, agriculture, environment, livestock, energy, manufacturing, fisheries, and blue economy. That is in regards to the manifesto that was launched yesterday night. And still on matters related to the polls, the Standard says IEBC kicks out jokers in race for president. Well, the Standard talks about out of the 57, and as my colleagues have talked about, from the longest list ever, 57 to only 4. That is the 4 presidential candidates that were cleared yesterday. And still on that, we also have a photo of independent presidential candidate Muthiora Kiriara, who banned his voter's card after he was disqualified yesterday. But IEBC said that's an electoral malpractice, so they are going to take some action on the same. Walter Mongare, comedian Nyambane, has also been kicked out, including Jeru Gadangu. Now we have only 4 aspirants from the 57 that had previously shown interest in that position. A lot has been talked about matters poll, but something else that is quite resonating with a lot of Kenyans is the cooking oil crisis. And it depends as farm shuts down to lack of raw materials. They're talking about the palm oil, talking about the lack of dollars in the market, and also the Ukraine-Russia war has done a lot of damages as well, with Ukraine being one of the best or one of the major producers of palm oil and also sunflower seeds. Still on the same, corruption poses a big threat to universal health care coverage. Once Health PS Susan Mochache saying that we need to weed out cartels in the ministry, and talked about investigators exposed a syndicate involved in the sale of cancer drugs at the Kenyatta National Hospital, saying that despite all the measures that the government has done to avert corruption in the Ministry of Health, there are still some elements within the ministry who are colluding with cartels to actualize corruption in that docket. Well, a lot has been talked about inside just Kivumbi, and talking about Manifesto. Raila promises to grow the economy and slay the dragon. But still on politics, let's cross over the political divide to Kenya Kwanza. They say we have the best interest at heart. That is DP telling the women, as the paper says, that UDA to agree with women to irreducible minimum and sign a charter ahead of elections. Ruto says August election is about the economy. Whose face is the Mama Mboga? If you read the analysis talking about they're trying to counter the Azimio side, which did even better by deciding that the running mate would be a woman. Back to you, Vicky.
All right, so we have got Muthiora Karriera, who you said banned his voter's card yesterday in full glare of cameras at the Bomas of Kenya. We have him in studio and he'll be telling us why that happened. Was it a form of protest? Was it an emotional move or otherwise? So he's here with us in studio ready, and we'll having that discussion not too long from now, so you don't have to miss that. All right. Muturi, Mutua and Kingi parties not part of Kenya Kwanza deal. Registrar of Political Parties, Nderitu, says that their factions didn't meet legal threshold. Registrar of Political Parties, Nderitu, has locked out their parties from joining the Kenya Kwanza alliance, thus missing out on the deal that would have secured them key positions, that would have actually key positions in Ruto's government. The registrar said that while PAA and the MCC have been locked on the ground that they belong to Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, coalition rather, a court order has barred the Democratic Party from joining the coalition. So as it stands, Mutua, Muturi and Kingi parties are not part of Kenya Kwanza deal. Treasury allocates 1.6 billion shillings for teachers in service training. They have been parting with 6,000 shillings for each of the modules to be done after every 5 years. So the Teachers Service Commission already secured that amount. In the budget of the 2022-2023 budget, that commission has set aside 289 billion shillings as gross current and capital estimates, and 7.3 billion shillings for general administration, planning and support services. So I think that is something good for the teachers and the service commission as well. Confusion as IBC locks out Wanjigi and Mungare. It was dramatic yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya. The deadline for the clearance of presidential candidates is today, and IEBC chair Ofule Chebukati said that he revoked Walter Mungare's clearance after new information emerged. But nonetheless, Mungare did not appear before the commission. All right, moving on quickly. Demand for police bodyguards rises as IEBC clears candidates. That's something that I touched earlier on. Sources say that almost 2,000 candidates for various seats are seeking security services. I have a question. If you belong to the people, just asking. If they say, mimi niko na watu, then why are you running away from the same people you say that's, you know, are protecting you? Just asking. I don't know. Doreen, why would you run away from the people who you're going to seek their vote?
It's a delicate time.
What are you talking
you
about?
Might just never, you know, like the way actually it's within the law, for instance, and yes. God forbid, if one of the candidates, because right now they are candidates, they've been cleared, if one of them dies, you realize the elections will be postponed. Is it for the next? After 3 months, that's when you're going to hold that elections. Yeah. And largely, this was also one of the IEBC's concern when we had the 55 aspirants who were aspiring to be presidents. So clearly, much as it is Kenyans who are going to vote for you, but then seeking protection, I just think it's a delicate time. You might never know. And then again, remember that we've also had instances where an aspirant has been cleared, then after a day or two, you hear there are no more.
Yeah.
Well, there has been, I think for 2 it's been accident, but again, also at the end of the day, it's just a question of let's protect them.
But Troy,
plus, it's also within the law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Troy, sio mnasema ati tuko na watu na Mungu.
Reality ni?
Yes. You see, actually the Standard had called them jokers, huh?
Yes.
The ones who are disqualified.
Yeah. The demand is so high. I don't know what Jen has to speak on that. I mean, 2,000 candidates. So you can imagine each and every candidate, that's 2,000 police officers, every candidate. That is plus or minus. Let's just give it a plus.
And actually, they're supposed to be the elite. Yeah, the elite, not just the ordinary police officers.
Oh.
They're supposed to be from the elite.
There's a qualification to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Jen is nodding next to me. She feels like she wants one as well. Jen, you're not a candidate.
Do not discriminate. I will use the voice words of Wanjigi.
Okay. All right. So I think that's what's there. And now police will have to go back to the drawing board to actually provide security for these people, because it's under the law that each and every candidate now should have security.
But just allow me to butt in, Victor.
Sure.
For this security, is it specific for the presidential candidates or all candidates who've been cleared?
Now that we have got 2,000 candidates for various seats, and they're now seeking for
elective posts,
for security services, they're applying for that.
It's not even possible. It's not even tenable.
Yeah, because I feel like it's impractical.
Yeah, because for you to get a police officer from a police station, first of all, you have to notify the OCPD. You know, you can't just get a police officer just by the fact that you've been cleared to run for. Some actually are okay the way they are. Yes, some people are okay the way they are. And you'll meet them in the streets, in the market, during their rallies, and they say that belong to the people, and people protect them. But we know how politics is, by the way, Doreen. So, yeah, it's a delicate moment anyway.
So some of them wako sawa kona Mungu na wako na watu.
Yeah.
Yeah. They use as a campaign tool.
All right.
Okay.
Jen.
Let me bring you back to the Daily Nation and to just touch on that particular story that you had touched on, Victor, concerning Jimmy Wanjigi's being locked out of the presidential race. And this came after he failed to present the IEBC with a copy of his degree certificate. But in place of the degree certificate, he submitted his transcripts where he said these are equivalent to the degree certificate, considering he should be graduating sometime in December, and the transcripts prove that he has completed his studies. And once this was rejected by the Electoral Commission, he went on to say that IEBC, or rather to claim that the Commission revoked his nomination on a discriminative basis, considering they knew another candidate was cleared on the same basis, which led to the revoking of Walter Mungare's nomination and clearance to vie for presidency. And I don't know what you guys think about this, because Chebukati went on to say that the revocation of Walter Mungare's nomination is not strange. It happens all the time across the country. Given he was the first one to be cleared
Last week to vie as a presidential candidate, and now here we are, his nomination has been revoked. What does this say about the Electoral Commission?
Just allow me to ask this. So let's assume that Jimmy Wanjigi would not have raised that concern. Then does it mean IEBC would not have revoked that certificate?
Yeah.
Good question. Huh? But
So
let me dig in. When it comes to law, the law, if you're not supposed to work for KBC if you're not 18 years of age, even if you're 17 and a half,
Turning 18 tomorrow.
Turning 18 tomorrow, you're not supposed to work here.
Until
you hit the 18. And actually, it's a good thing that D has brought this up, because what does it talk about other things? Because, you know, you cannot just say, get this is a certificate, and then the following day say, by the way, let me have a look at that certificate once again.
Yeah.
How?
No. And especially
the law is the law.
Yeah.
If you haven't hit the qualification, you're out. And Wanjigi knew that. The question is, why did he even begin his campaigns? There's a lot of resources used, a lot of time, you know.
But you know, this takes us to the whole question around the confidence that we as a people should be having on the electoral body's capability to manage and run the elections to conclusion without any loopholes, because we did see the two presidential candidates, Raila and Ruto, lay out concerns about the challenges that were there in the previous general elections. And this, to some, it might seem like a very small issue, because, I mean, the chair himself said this is nothing strange. It has happened before. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I think at this point, it's such a wrong statement to use, that it happens all the time. I mean, you're what, like, is it 62 right now to the polls?
So should he have actually, if Walter Mungare had actually gone on and actually won the presidential race and become the president, still holding transcripts,
actually,
would he be qualified to be a president, because he didn't have a degree, but he has the transcripts that prove he had completed his studies but hadn't graduated and have the actual certificate?
Then what does this say about the integrity and the honesty of the Electoral Commission, at least at this point where we are?
Actually, that's one thing that we discussed yesterday, the integrity test on the side of IEBC. And you see, this would have slipped unnoticed had Wanjigi not raised it. Because the revocation of Mungare's certificate happened moments after Safina Party. Candidate Jimmy Wanjigi and running mate Willis Otieno accused the commission of applying double standards in the process. Now, they were disqualified over lack of degree. And let me quote, "You have already set precedents by clearing the first presidential candidate with the same degree issue." Now, according to Wanjigi, he provided the transcripts, and it said that he is due to graduate in December.
Yes.
The same case with Walter Mungare. So they were just raising that concern that, hey, how are you, why did you clear him, but you're not clearing us now, and yet we have the same issue? And then the IBC chair said, hey, guy, wait a minute. So he summoned Walter Mungare, who did not show up. And on that basis, he was also disqualified because of new information, quote unquote, according to Chebukati.
How was it new information? Because if Wanjigi were also to win the presidential race, he still wouldn't have the degree certificate.
Then the question is, then
how was this new information yet?
Who suffered the most then? Mungare or Wanjigi? Who would have given that pass? Would have been given that pass easily? Wanjigi would have been given that pass to the same way what Mungare was given?
But considering Mungare was the first one,
and again,
to be cleared.
And again, it means that perhaps if IBC would have considered Wanjigi the way they did with Mungare, since he had presented the transcript, then again, it means that that clause of degree again would have been just a story, not following what is in the law. So, and I feel like that's why it keeps raising the question of what does it say about the integrity and the honesty. Just as you mentioned, Jane, Raila Odinga and William Ruto raised concerns, and largely the integrity issue also featured in. And so if they could raise such concerns, even for us as Kenyans who will be going to vote, are we even trusting what is going to transpire in there?
And you know what, guys? The good thing is that we have Gutierrez Carriera, who was there first-hand, presidential candidate. He'll tell us all the intrigues, the behind the scenes, you know, the pressure of meeting the requirements by the IEBC. And he said, you know what? Not running? No problem. Burn it up.
And also caught saying that he deliberately did not submit the signatures because people were asking for bribes.
Yeah.
Who was that? Okuru Okot?
Yeah.
It's a whole ball game altogether. He will tell us more on that.
All right, now before I hand you over to Doreen, just lastly here on the Daily Nation, Ruto's war with CSs in campaign echoes Raila's move back in 2017. So in essence, he's sort of mirroring what Raila Odinga did back in 2017, where the UDA on Friday actually urged the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, to initiate criminal proceedings against 5 CSs for allegedly campaigning for Raila Odinga. And this is the same move that Raila Odinga did back in 2017 after he imputed several CSs for campaigning for President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election while still in office. And as Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act provides, that state officers are not to participate in these political proceedings while still holding these offices. So, and this is also one of the story that was a similar story rather was in the Daily Nation a while back, I think a couple or 3 months back, looking at some of the tactics that Ruto is employing are same moves that actually Raila did in the previous elections, where he was eyeing for the top job. So I think with that we are closing this segment. Victor, what can we expect with Muthiora, given he's joining us in just a bit in regards to the elections and especially the presidential race?
The best person to answer that question is Muthiora
himself.
All right.
But Vicky, just a minute, yeah?
Yes.
You do remember the Kenya Kwanza accused the media of being biased. There's something that should be taken with a little bit of gist, because Gachagua yesterday also said the same thing, is that the Kenyan media is biased and giving Azimio side all the airtime, interviews on radio and television, on newspapers. And I believe that is something that needs to be addressed, because these are some of the issues that are raised after people are defeated or after people win. They say, yes, it's because you won because of ABCD. The media was not being fair. Guys, we are all in media. What do you think? Hey, a big one. Wow.
Let me just say, again, before you close, I think that then there needs to be a lot of issues that needs to be looked into, because also just as you talk about Kenya Kwanza saying that the media is biased, they also talked about the fact that there's a number of voters who are missing from the list. And, you know, it raises questions, because if someone was registered as a voter, then how are they missing from the registers?
Actually, it's not a very good statement to be using at this time.
At this point, it's not.
All right.
Anyway, it's politics for you.
Why are you all taking deep breaths?
Because we are done for this segment.
Victor.
All right. We'll take a break and we come back. Muthiora Karriera is up next. Stick around.